What's up everybody? As you may know, every year I like to make a best and worst laptops list once we're at the end of the year, and I have reviewed a ton of laptops, so I figured why not create a high level list that kind of gives the instant gratification of telling you where each laptop ranks. Now, if you just want to skip right to the rankings, feel free to use the chapters below and you can skip to any ranking of your choice, but just a few things to keep in mind. Firstly, this list is not conclusive. It does not include every single laptop, nor does it include every single laptop that I have personally reviewed in 2022. There's just far too many. Rather, I chose a handful of laptops that stand out for better and worse and kind of put them here. Secondly, this is my subjective opinion. It's based on reviews I've done on objective metrics as well as subjective thoughts. So this, again, list is not absolute. You might beg to differ. You might have a different opinion. All those are welcome, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Thirdly, the configuration specifications based on the version I have versus the one you have may vary because you might be in a different part of the world where there are different versions of a given laptop that are sold to you. And the final thing worth noting is that this list only includes mid to upper mid-range productivity laptops, meaning it does not include budget laptops, gaming laptops, or extremely high-end premium laptops. This is the most popular category, so I figured it only makes sense to include those kinds of laptops. As always, if you guys enjoyed the content, please consider liking this video and hitting the subscribe button. It genuinely helps me grow and means the world to me. Let's get started. At the very bottom of the list, we have Samsung's Galaxy Book 2. But before I rip on this laptop, let me say it's one good thing. It has a great design. It looks sleek. The build quality isn't bad either. It's a mix of premium metallic materials combined with sturdy plastic ones, so it's pretty good, though it is a fingerprint magnet. Now for the nasty stuff. Well, firstly, it has a very lackluster display with a sRGB rating somewhere in the 50% range. On top of that, it has very low screen brightness. Now, to make matters worse, this is one of the few mid-range laptops that does not have standard backlighting. Some regions don't offer it entirely, others actually make you pay extra for it, despite being priced similarly to most other laptops on this list. Now, to make matters worse, the overall keyboard quality as well as the trackpad isn't anything really to write home about either. It's very shallow and just not a great experience. The performance is where this laptop really suffers. Even though it has some of the latest 12th gen Intel hardware, the problem is it gets far too hot, reading surface temperatures of around 47 degrees Celsius, which is the highest in class for a mid-range productivity laptop. Not just that though, it has very mediocre I/O port diversity, no Thunderbolt 4 support, and also it's worth noting its battery life, while not bad, isn't anything great either, averaging around 8.5 hours per charge. And finally, it's just not competitively priced. It makes far too many compromises, but still charges as much as your average mid-range laptop. And for all those reasons and many more which I haven't mentioned, the Galaxy Book 2 is at the very bottom of this list. At number 5 on our list is the Huawei's Matebook D15. So one of its best qualities right off the bat is that this is a competitively priced laptop. In fact, it offers similar configurations and specifications but still costs less than a lot of other laptops on this list. With that said, there's a lot of disappointing things about this laptop. Firstly, it has one of the worst I/O port selections I've seen. They still have USB 2.0, which is just weird for a laptop in 2022. You also have a very subpar trackpad and keyboard implemented here. There's practically no key travel on the keyboard whatsoever, which just makes for a bad typing experience. You also have a pretty poor display here with sRGB ratings in the 50% zone and very low screen brightness, which means glare is often a problem for the screen. Now, the battery life is average around 8 hours, so it's not bad, but it's not great either. One good thing I will say as a saving grace is this laptop has great performance despite having similar configurations as a lot of other laptops in the same class. The reason for that is that you have much more well-balanced thermals than you do, let's say, with laptops like the Galaxy Book 2, which is plagued with thermal issues. Still here? Happy to see that. Guys, just know that this content takes a ton of time, effort, and resources to create. And when you subscribe to this channel or like this video, it keeps me motivated to provide more quality content like this and makes me feel wholesome about putting all that effort into the videos I make. So thank you so much for watching. Let's keep going. Higher up on the list, we have the Surface Laptop 5. This laptop did get a lot of heat and controversy around it, primarily because it recycles the same design as the Surface Laptop 4. But from an objective lens, it does have certain qualities. But first, the ugly stuff. It has a fairly high price point despite having very similar configurations to most other laptops on this list. On top of that, it starts with a base option of 256 gigabytes of SSD storage, which is just unfair in 2022. But not just that, the laptop has very average or in fact below average performance, the key problem being, you guessed it, thermals, with average surface temperatures hitting around 47 degrees Celsius under higher loads. That is an insanely hot laptop, which of course results in thermal throttling. The key problem is airflow because of the very sleek design. Now, it's worth noting you do have two USB-C ports on this laptop, but that's pretty much all you have. So very limited utility and poor I/O port diversity. On a lighter note, you do have a very high quality design. The pure metallic frame with the sturdy overall build quality just makes this look like a very premium laptop, which of course in a lot of ways it is. Past that, you do have a great display with a 100% sRGB rating and full touch captivity. It's also worth noting battery life is exceptional on this laptop with up to 11 hours on a single charge. In fact, some benchmarks have shown even higher numbers. So if this laptop was a little bit cheaper or offered a little bit more storage, I think it could have been a contender for number 3 spot, but it just doesn't quite get there. At number 3 on our list, we're getting pretty high up now, is the M2 MacBook Air. Now, there's a few things that really make this laptop stand out. Firstly, it has an amazing display with a 100% sRGB rating and up to 500 nits of peak brightness. This is one of the best displays you can find on a 13-inch laptop. It also has a fantastic keyboard and trackpad. The input quality is great on it. Past that, you also have amazing speakers on here. In fact, again, they're one of the best you can find on a 13-inch laptop and put most other laptops to shame in that regard. You also, of course, have fantastic performance. Now, I know people weren't too happy about the lack of active cooling in the thermals, but in my honest opinion, anything from word processing to number crunching to 4K video editing is entirely viable on this laptop, even at the base 8GB configuration. This thing is an absolute powerhouse. You really have to have an intense situation to overheat it, which again, I think was an overblown situation by the media. Now, with that said, you have a great webcam as well, which has a full HD resolution. Finally, Apple, thank you. And it's also worth noting the build quality, as you might have expected, is top tier over here. You've got a full metallic frame and it feels like a premium product. The signature feature by far is its insane 14-hour battery life. This thing is the epitome of all-day battery life on a laptop. Why isn't it any higher on this list if it's so good? Well, two reasons. Firstly, it's an expensive laptop, but that's not the real point here. It has a 256GB base storage option. It only has two USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports, meaning it has extremely limited utility, and the base configuration option with that limited storage is just unacceptable in 2022 to the extent that I think putting it any higher on this list would just be unfair from a value proposition. Climbing even further up the mountain, we have the Dell Inspiron 14 2022 edition. This laptop is so high because it's one of the most well-rounded machines you can buy. Firstly, it has a great build quality with a nice metallic exterior mixed with some plastic elements. It feels sturdy and it feels like it's designed to last. You also have great I/O port diversity, plenty of I/O standards, which adds a lot of utility. Additionally, you have a great keyboard with full backlighting, of course, and a decent trackpad to complement that. You also have a full HD webcam with this year's refresh, which significantly improves video quality. And you also have great performance, even though you have similar specifications as a lot of other laptops, so you have Intel 12th Gen or AMD equivalents, but you still get great performance even at the base level. And it's also worth noting thermals aren't too shabby here either. You also have robust configuration, so aside from being able to choose Intel or AMD, you can customize the RAM, in some regions even the display and the storage, allowing you to bring the pricing up or down and the performance up or down as well. Past that though, this laptop can't go any higher because, firstly, it has an average battery life of 7.5 hours, which is definitely below average, especially when compared to a lot of other laptops on this list. And also the display is quite lackluster with a 56% sRGB rating and a mere peak brightness of 300 nits. It is shameful really, though you do have a 16:10 aspect ratio and therefore this laptop is at the higher end of this list. At number 1, and trust me when I say this was a difficult one because there are a lot of good competitors, I ultimately went with Lenovo's IdeaPad 3i. Why, you may ask? Well, it's the most well-rounded productivity laptop in the mid-range segment for a number of reasons. It has a partial metallic exterior, a very sturdy and solid build. It feels like a professional laptop that can be used in any environment. On top of that, it has the best in-class keyboard you can find again in the mid-range segment. It's such a great typing experience. Lenovo has become a master at this, and it's complemented by a decent trackpad as well. Additionally, you have a healthy amount of I/O ports with good standards, providing good utility. On top of that, you also have robust configuration options. So the 3i can be adjusted in terms of the amount of RAM you get pre-installed, also the storage, and in some regions even the display, which allows you to adjust the price to performance ratio depending on what budget you might personally have. Past that, you have great performance, which is complemented by good thermals. Anything from web browsing to 4K video editing is very much possible with the latest 12th gen Intel hardware, and even with just 8GB of RAM, this laptop can perform. Now, it's worth noting the battery life is average, so I got about 8 hours on a single use charge test, which isn't bad, but it's not anything shining or, to brag about per se. And of course, the display, which ultimately is the most disappointing part of this laptop. It has a approximate 56% sRGB rating with a mere peak brightness of 300 nits. But despite that, I don't really put that as a negative point outright because most other productivity laptops in this range are more or less in the same boat. However, the real reason this laptop is so far high up at a number 1 spot is because of its value proposition. The IdeaPad 3i frequently goes on sale. In fact, it's probably on sale right now. It's often cheaper than a lot of the competition, and it's widely available across the world, providing a lot of utility and again value proposition. And that's why I put it at this year's number 1 spot. A few honorable mentions which I actually considered for the top 3 spots on this list. Firstly, Acer's Aspire 5 for its utilitarian design and refreshing looks. And secondly, HP's Pavilion 15 laptop for its amazing performance and high quality build. Definitely check out reviews on both of them. I will leave links in the video description below, and I'll leave links for pretty much all the laptops I talked about. And again, keep in mind I've covered way more laptops than the ones I've mentioned here. You can go to my channel and search the laptop you're looking for. Chances are, if it's a mid-range productivity laptop, there's probably a review on it. Let me know what you think of this list, and if you disagree, I'd love to hear what you would put on your list of top 6 best and worst laptops in general. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. Catch you in the next one.